It's my lifestyle. It's my lifestyle.
Games have finally been canceled. Stuff has actually happened now. Things are real. I have been distraught by both sides of the argument for everyone. I feel like immediately after everything got done, every player was out here like, Manfred needs to go. Games are being canceled because of him. It's not because of us. Players just want a fair deal. That's such rhetoric and not real. And everyday fans are like, oh, are they not getting a fair deal? Okay, so let's uncork what happens. Did the owners, Dennis, offer to increase the luxury tax?
I believe so. I haven't done much research.
So
on it.
they were willing to increase it by somewhere in the ballpark of $30 million. The players wanted it to be faster and more. So they wanted even more high end. What players were willing to sacrifice is when somebody became a free agent and how much the floor got paid. So my problem comes back around to everyone's saying, oh, it's billionaires. Billionaires are the problem. The owners are the problem. The owners are the problem. And I'm right again. The players and the Players Association are so afraid to not look like they won a negotiation that they are not negotiating with another party. The last few collective bargaining agreements, players won, the players won, the players won. Now all of a sudden it's, oh, well, we have to win again. Well, that's not bargaining. That's you wanting to suppress somebody else all the time and making things up about why it needs to be. One of the things that we've discussed on this show was thrown out by the owners. They set a $100 million player floor, but a $180 million ceiling. Players didn't want to go for that. Nope, can't happen. Not good. Not for us. Not allowed. That would mean competitive balance. My other issue with what the players are going with is the players feel like, oh, we don't want to give up a free market system. We do not want to limit our ability. Anybody should be able to make any amount of money. On a per year basis, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson make more money than anybody except for maybe now a pitcher for the Mets in Max Scherzer. Everybody else makes less money than them. And they're in a capped league where the NFL cap is $208 million. Hard cap. $208 million. And somehow, some way, there's a $45 million player that exists in that league. Let's go to the NBA. Do you know what James Harden's next contract would pay him?
What's the max deal at now? I would assume it'd have to be somewhere in like the $35 to $40 million range.
$60 million.
Fair enough.
$60 million. There are multiple $40 million players in the league. I believe one player in the league might be at 53. Russell Westbrook, who everybody agrees is an okay player, right? But he's not top 5 in the league, not top 10 in the league. Do you have what his salary is?
Russell Westbrook AAV right now is $41 million.
$41 million. Do you know what the NBA salary cap is? I do. $121 million. So we have a $44 million player in a $121 million capped league that has a $147 million luxury tax. And MLB guys will go, yeah, but they only have 15 guys. NFL has 53, and there's $40 million players, and they're dividing $208 million across 53 players. Guys, what are we talking about that we can't have a salary cap? Now, I'm with you. I don't think that there should be a salary cap in any sport. I want there to be there. But the reality is the reason all the other sports are better is because they can create some type of competitive balance. And it's not just a pay-to-play market system, which ends up making the overall game worse. Did everybody like when the New York Yankees were winning every World Series and outspending every single person? Nope.
I did.
Yankees fans did, right? That's it. Nuts and bolts of it. That was it. What happened this past year with the Padres? The Padres have just spent an exorbitant amount of money to try to catch up to the Dodgers. They still didn't. And everybody's like, oh, you see, you don't have to spend a crazy amount of money. Look what San Francisco did. Guys, anomaly, not the rule.
You also look at Tampa as like one of those teams that doesn't spend a lot of money and finds ways to win. There's always going to be teams that do that.
Do you know why Tampa doesn't spend as much money as other people?
They spend more money on their what's the term I'm looking for? Like teaching their young prospects
and developing guys and doing stuff. Do you know why they have to do that?
I'm assuming it has something to do with the fact that they don't make all that much money as a team.
Forget just the team. Everybody keeps saying that this is an ownership is a collection of billionaires, right? Mm-hmm. And we can go with semantics and we could say whatever we want. Stuart Sternberg, who owns the Tampa Bay Rays, is worth $800 million.
It's a lot of money.
Mike Trout, his contract is for $426 million. Let's put that in a comparison. Mike Trout is to Jose Berrios what Trout is to Stuart Sternberg. Let that sink in, guys. Does that man have that much more money than the player who is playing on the team? No. Now, then everybody says, oh, well, the Braves this past year made $100 million in profit. $100 million. They should spend. They should lean in. They should go. Guys, they got all the revenue from being in the playoffs. And they got all the revenue from winning. Winning made them successful. What if they had spent all that money and didn't make the playoffs? A la team like the Mets. They wouldn't have made all that playoff revenue, and they still would have had the same amount of costs. So now we start getting into economics of fixed and variable costs. Fixed costs are costs that will not change over the course of a year. Variable costs are the things that will change due to the circumstances that happen. Variable costs are always directly in line to I made more money. Fixed costs don't change whether I do well or I do bad. I can spend less in variable cost if I'm winning less. I spend more in variable cost if I'm winning more, making more money. So we're looking at the number one team. Now let's say that they made the most money in profit in the whole league as the champion, and they made $100 million. Their costs to operate were $457 million. $500 million to keep the lights on, people. $500 million. So let's assume that the operation of an MLB team at some scale fits into the ballpark of $350 to $500 million. Or more, depending on what city you're in. They're in Atlanta. Not as expensive as being in New York. Not as expensive as being in California. Not like so let's take that into account when we look at that. Not as expensive being in Chicago. And that's what their costs were. So let's say it's anywhere between 500, it could be up to 600 million to operate the team, and down to 350 million. So if you have a team that does not win, does not make money, they will lose money. Now, a quote came out, the Nationals lose money more often than they ever have made money. How do we know this? It's why they had to leave Montreal. They were the Expos. They are now the Nationals. They left because they weren't making money. They got a new stadium. They got all the stuff. They won World Series. They made money when they won, but not a lot. That is why they had to trade Scherzer. They had to trade Turner. That's why they made a big offer to Juan Soto, and he didn't accept it. Scherzer said, this isn't about me. This is about the next generation. That's easy to say when you just got $43 million, man. What are you negotiating for? If that were true, you would put a cap on the league. You would build the floor up. Because what happens if the floor is up? You would take away the service time. Those would have been the battles you guys were willing to commit. Hey, we'll take less money. We'll take less money at the top end. The superstar will make less. Because you know what happens if there was a cap? Those teams can't spend that much. It would pull those salaries down. But you know what it would raise? The bottom. It would build the floor up. It would build the floor up. The minimum salary in the MLB, $570K. That player makes 0.13% annually what Mike Trout makes. Mike Trout's net worth is 3.3% of the richest owner in the league, Stephen Cohen. Billionaire and a guy who's half a billionaire versus an everyday person making $500K. It isn't close, people. You guys don't realize, and what's not being in the paper, what's not being out there, is this is a battle over ego. And it has barely anything to do with trying to actually get back on the field and play baseball. Because the reality is, hey guys, you know what? You know what a fair deal is? Would any of these guys still get paid millions and millions and millions of dollars to play a game, Dennis?
Yeah.
If we made the salary cap stay where it is, would it change that these guys are making what it is? If it didn't move, it didn't go up, would all these guys who just got all this money still make money?
Yeah, they'd still make plenty of money.
So the owners are not making a fair deal. Now, somebody's going to hear this and then be like, you know what? Bill doesn't understand. He doesn't understand what's coming down the pipe and what's changed the revenue tremendously. I do. It's called gambling. I get it, and I know that it's a big point of contention inside of baseball. We've always stayed away from gambling. Pete Rose has been vilified for it, but it's about to happen because every other league is doing it and making gobs of money. So the MLB is ready to do it. They want this CBA to not include that because the owners want to take that money. That's where I agree with you guys. Negotiate a separate deal. If that comes into play, 50-50 split on gambling revenues. Is that fair, Dennis?
I think so.
Done. I just solved the whole issue on that problem. Addendum. If gambling or any new market opportunity presents itself to the MLB or otherwise, it is a 50-50 split on our game of baseball. Done.
Baseball lifestyle, it's my lifestyle.